Oh, hey there. Midlife hobbyist here. Thanks for joining. I got a cool one for you. Stick around. All right. We got, I'm doing something cheap right now. It's something kind of came up on the backhoe, and I thought, it was the injection. It's 2 weeks of fooling with the injectors and fooling with the injection pump. And yeah, I think I was in denial, I guess, on it being a head gasket because I just didn't want to take the head gasket off. But I've pulled the head. It's here. This is a Perkins diesel non-turbo backhoe, and that's the cause. I really should have known it. When you crank and crank and crank and crank and nothing happens, but you get one cylinder maybe firing or steadily firing, um, I thought it was fuel. So anyway, we're at a point where we're waiting for the head gasket to come, the head gasket kit. It's got my seals, it's got my intake, my exhaust, and of course the head gasket. So I'm prepping the head, and I know better than to drop that thing on with bad valves. These valves, I've actually hit them with a wire wheel to start with. So they're looking better, but we know they're not going to seal because they've got a groove. Yeah, camera doesn't do it any justice. But I've got a trick I really wanted to share with y'all. So we need valves that have that special little gray line across them and nice and flat. Stick around. I'll show you how I do it. Okay, so what we're doing here is we've got bad valves. They're all grooved up on the inside of the groove. They're just not going to saddle right and they won't seal properly. So what we're going to do is actually at home reface without a valve grinder. I'm going to use a bench grinder and a drill. We have to guess the angle a little bit, but we should get good results. What we're shooting for, grab another exhaust. What we're shooting for after we've lapped in and everything, using grinding compound to get that roughly 16th inch gray all the way around concentric on a nicely faced valve with no bumps, no burrs, no grooves. That's what we're looking for. You can't just take this up to a grinder and stick it on there and spin it. You just can't. You'll cause inconsistencies. You have to have this thing spinning and the grinder will be cutting. And you have to do it very lightly. And you're only taking off a touch at a time. So what we're doing was we're going to load it into a drill using the chuck mechanism. Don't tighten too much. This is the spring zone, so any bump you make, it's not going to be a big deal. If you tighten down on the keeper zone, that'll make a bump and the keeper won't saddle properly. So the teeth need to land in this area. Look. Cut there. All right, so when you're setting that valve against here, you're going to be sitting off at this funky angle, and it's very hard to hold. And you're basically putting it up against that face. Now, a couple things that you could go wrong here is if you've got an old grinding wheel. It doesn't really even have to be old, but if when you're grinding something you set in one spot, you really should be going like this so that you wear this evenly. Because I don't know if you can see, but this goes in, it has a groove in the middle of it. So I don't have, or have lost, my dressing stone, which is basically a piece of diamond that cuts this face on a tool that goes back and forth and cleans that, squares it to the sides of the wheel or to the face of the rotation. So I've got a nice hard file that I'm just going to spin it up and cut the high spots off to start with, moving it back and forth and knocking this down a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfect, it does need to be a fine though. So going after this with a coarse wheel, which this is, that's a coarse face, you'll just pretty much ruin your valve. So starting with a fine and facing it, you'll need to dress the stone, and this will partway do it. So I'm only using the left side of the stone while I'm doing this. So that's the only part that I really dressed, because it's a waste of stone if you're taking off a whole bunch, off both sides, just to fix one side. So we're going to attempt the valve reface at this time. This is the grind master right here. He's going to help us calm our nerves and keeps our hands from shaking. That's right. He's the bestest boy. All right, so here we go. We're gonna try and match this angle on that face while rotating this against that spinning blade. And you're going against this face, matching this angle, using this to steady you. What I'm gonna do is take a little bit of oil. You're also going to be guiding it with like a thumb or a thumbnail, or a leather glove would be really great. So if you could just guide this while spinning this against that wheel while this is running, you see the sparks shoot that way, and you're watching this face to see the material you're removing. So if you cut and you're cutting off of one side, like if you were cutting off the high side only, maybe match your angle down this way. If you were cutting the other way, off the bottom of the valve first, then you need to match it up that way. We're just trying to match the angle that is predominant off this face. That's all we're trying to do. I'm going to set it up there and practice my angle. It seems like this is going to be all right. And we don't want any stopping and starting while you're grinding, because you'll grind a groove in the face of this and that will not seal compression. All right, so we're comfortable with this, the cut. Also, I'm going to drop a touch of oil on my surface here just to keep the valve from binding up and wanting to jump into the grindstone. Once again, clear workspace, matching the angle, plenty of light. You may see me adjust it like this. That's because I'm adjusting for what I see on the cut. Here we go. So we've dressed that face and it's rough. So we're going to try and smooth that up because we got our nice smooth surface all the way across. And now we're going to match up that angle again with a flat file on the same spinning method just to knock down any further high spots. So this is kind of a refinement. Load it back in. Gone. Now we're going to just smooth up using a little finer one. This one's a little bit finer. It's flat enough across there, so this thing really just finds its own flat and level across. I'm going to add a little bit of lubricant. That's all it takes. This is just oil. Nobody uses WD-40 anymore, so I'm wasting it on that. This isn't so critical because we're not taking off much. We're just smoothing up. The roughness is disappearing. So I'm going to increase the speed. And grab a little napkin here. So you can see we've again improved the surface. And it is square. It is really close to the angle that was originally intended for this valve at manufacture. I'm going to go one step further to clean it up some more. I'm going to spin it. This is it's 220. Don't go for 80s. Don't go for low rough grits, because we're in kind of a finishing phase with this. You want to walk it back and forth. Because really riding the same spot just makes the same groove deeper. This is the desired result right here. You can see that is an acceptable valve face. I'm just going to clean up the rest of the valve. Happy with that. Really happy with that. Okay, so we're at the head here. I've already done 2 of these valves. This thing makes a distinct sound when the valve is set right. And it's kind of like it's like a record player needle. If it's not hitting anything, it's not making any noise. If it's hitting grooves and stuff, it's making noise. This one here has also been ground. I'm going to take the valve. This is an exhaust side. This is a Perkins diesel, by the way, like an 83. You want to have your valve seals off. Of course, our valve spring is not in the way. It would be on this side. The valve seals have been removed. I'm going to drop it in. You can hear, maybe the microphone doesn't pick it up, but it makes a distinct noise. It's kind of a little bit of a grindy noise. We're looking for just a smooth whisper almost. And you can feel that there's tension. It's a little bit, if you're pulling on this, trying to turn it, it's hard to turn. This one, I'm pulling on it, it's smooth. It doesn't grab, it's not sealing. It's sealing better than a regular valve would or a worn valve. But we're trying to establish, this is an unseated, this is a seated valve. You've got that nice gray zone right there. This is made by adding valve grinding compound. This is pretty cheap. I actually got this one off Amazon. To apply, just need a little daub coming out of the end. Spin the valve in your hand while squeezing out just a touch. Too much of this, it'll just get everywhere. It's a little hard to clean off without paint thinner or some kind of solvent. Once it hardens up, it's like a stone. So we're going to just basically leave that like that. Enough all the way around. Try not to touch. And we're coming into the bottom of the head. Try not to touch that face. Guide it into the hole. Go pretty near closed. Cap this up. Likes to dry out fast. We're going to do because we don't have the right tool. There is a correct tool for this. I'm going to load that back into the drill. Set the chuck. This is the trick. I'm going to turn it just a bit. That valve is in the open position. This is the closed position. This is what we want to grind against. Occasionally I want to open the valve and close the valve to pull the pushed away compound back onto the face that we're trying to grind and smooth. So with this spinning at a low speed, I'm just touching and that sound is from the very small stones in that grinding compound grinding between the two faces of steel, the valve seat and the valve face. I'm going to reverse it. Every time I pull that valve away, it's pulling the compound kind of like a skin surface, water surface back towards, because if I just sit and grind, it'll quiet down. It made all the stones small. So when I pull it away, it's a new set of stones that fall in place. This is all kind of microscopic. It's more like your imagination could tell you how it's working better than you could actually ever see it. Reversing the direction. And I'm not hearing much in the way of like much grinding going on, so I think we're there. It's probably more than I should have ground it, but it's okay. It's an old yard beast that this is going in a backhoe. So this is the moment, the reveal. Put the valve on the paper towel and just spin it until you have a nice mating surface that's going to hold compression. It's going to use less fuel, be easier to start, be a nice even running motor. You got to clock these so that they're to the cylinder that you ground it for. And yes, I know that's not in the dead center, but it's pretty darn close. You want to clean the inside of the cylinder head valve zone off because this will dry up and be a little hard to come out. For me, I got to do this 8 times. Works for intake and exhaust. I'm real happy with the result on that. It's a bush fix, I know. A lot of people may not have access to a machine shop or don't like the price that they would charge you for it. It used to be 80 bucks for a head. That was a few minutes ago. I don't know how much it is now. So we're going to clean that thing off real nice with some starter fluid or whatever you have kicking around that is a solvent that can degrease and super clean. So that side's clean. We can do the cylinder head side. Got a little bit left on there still. This stuff evaporates real fast. So this isn't the absence of sounds that we're looking for when we put this in here and turn it. It's a certain type of sound, just to be clear. So we're going to drop this into the it's a very even, and if I pull, I really can't turn it. With one that's just been kind of polished up, it can spin. I want that traction, and it's settled in there so tight, it's going to seal. So that's 3 down for me. I got 5 more to go. Head gasket's not here yet. Valve seals aren't here yet. But I'm going to get this out of the way, and hopefully this weekend we can fire it up. Roll some coal. Thank you. So we've got a shot of the old head gasket that was underneath this Perkins diesel. She definitely had issues. That was cylinder 3 and 4. Kind of swapping places with compression. One was up, one was down. It just whooshed back and forth until it cleaned a hole right through this thing. I got lucky this didn't dump any antifreeze or oil intermixing. I really like that when that happens. So if you want to go ahead and like and subscribe at this point, we'd sure appreciate that. We'll definitely get the next video out for you where you can see the coal going up through the chimney and running and digging holes in the backyard. All right.